The moon was high over the alien colony. Faint blue light fell on the broken buildings and narrow paths where strange creatures lived. Some places were loud with alien music, others silent and cold. But in one dark corner, near a ruined shelter, sat a lonely girl. She was not human. Her skin was pale and glowing softly, her hair long and silver like moonlight. Her name was Nira. Nira hugged her knees, watching from a distance as a group of alien children laughed and played. They were celebrating a birthday, singing in their language, lighting small floating candles, and eating colorful sweets. The candles danced in the air like tiny stars. The joy in their voices hurt her more than silence. She had never had a birthday. Not once. No one had ever given her cake. No one had sung for her. She didn't even know her real birth date. All she knew was this feeling of being forgotten. She had been left in the colony when she was very young. Her parents vanished one night and never returned. Some said they died. Others whispered they had run away from something terrible. No one told her the truth. They just called her the cursed girl. Nira wiped her tears silently, trying not to make a sound. She didn't want the other children to see her. They would laugh. They always laughed when she came close. One time a boy threw stones at her and said, "Your face makes the sky cry." Since then, she stayed in the shadows. As the laughter from the party grew louder, Nira stood up and walked away. Her bare feet touched the cold ground as she moved toward an old junkyard. This was her secret place, a place no one else wanted. She had made a small corner there using broken walls and plastic sheets. She sat down on a stone and looked at the stars above. "If I had a birthday," she whispered to the sky, "would someone bring me a cake?" Her voice was small, almost like a breath. But someone heard it. A tall figure was passing by. A human male. He had short dark hair, rough boots, and a kind face. His name was Alex. He worked in the colony as a repairman. No one knew much about him. He mostly stayed quiet. But he always looked people in the eye. Even aliens. He stopped when he heard her voice. At first, he thought it was just the wind. But then he saw her small, alone, and glowing in the moonlight. She looked no older than 12 or 13, though alien age was hard to guess. She didn't notice him yet. She kept staring at the sky. Alex walked slowly toward her and said softly, "Hey, are you okay?" Nira turned sharply, her eyes wide like a frightened animal. She stood up quickly, ready to run. "I didn't steal anything," she said, backing away. Alex raised his hands. "I know. I just heard you talking. I've never seen someone so sad on a night like this." She stared at him. No one had ever spoken to her with that voice. It didn't sound like fear. It didn't sound like pity. It sounded warm. "Who are?" she asked. "Alex," he replied. "I fix broken things. Sometimes doors, sometimes machines." Nira looked down. "Can you fix broken birthdays?" she asked quietly. Alex smiled a little, though his heart felt heavy. "I don't know, but I can try." Nira sat down again slowly. She didn't understand this human. Why was he still here? Why hadn't he walked away like the others? "Why are you talking to me?" she asked. "Because you looked like you needed someone to," he said. She didn't reply. For a while, they both just sat in silence. Then she said, "Today is not my birthday, but it feels like it is. Because it hurts more than other days." Alex nodded. "Sometimes the days that should be special hurt the most." She looked at him again, her eyes shining with confusion and sadness. "Do humans always get birthdays?" "Most of us do," he replied. "With cakes, candles, songs, and people who care." She looked away. "I never had people who care." Alex stood up and said, "Then maybe it's time that changed." Before she could ask what he meant, he was already walking away. Nira stared at his back until he disappeared into the shadows. For the first time in years, her heart didn't feel as heavy, and she didn't know why. But her tears had stopped. The next morning, Nira sat in her usual place, a pile of broken metal parts in the junkyard, surrounded by rust and silence. The laughter from last night's birthday party still echoed in her mind. It felt like a dream she could never enter, but something was different today. She kept thinking about the human, the one who didn't look at her with disgust, the one who didn't walk away. Alex. No one in the colony remembered her name. To others, she was just that girl, or the cursed one. But Alex had asked if she was okay, and he listened. That alone felt like a strange gift. Still, she didn't think he would return, but he did. That afternoon, as the dusty wind blew across the colony, Nira saw him again. He was walking with a metal box in one hand and a small old fan in the other. He passed through the alley but paused when he saw her sitting quietly under a bent pipe. She quickly looked away, but Alex walked closer and sat down a few feet from her. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Is it okay if I sit here?" Nira was silent. No one ever asked before. They just pushed or ignored her. "Yes," she finally said. He nodded. "Good. I needed a break anyway. Been fixing a cooling system all day. It's so hot even my tools want to melt." Nira gave a small, surprised smile. Just a flicker. But Alex noticed it. Then he looked at her and asked, "Do you remember what you told the stars last night?" Her face turned red with embarrassment. "You heard that?" He nodded, every word. "I didn't mean to say it out loud." "I'm glad you did," he said. "Otherwise I wouldn't have met you." Nira looked at him with careful eyes. "You're not scared of me?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "Should I be?" She looked down. "The others say I bring bad luck. That I'm a shadow child. That anyone who talks to me will suffer." "Well," Alex shrugged, "I've already suffered. Lost a ship, lost a job, lost people. So talking to you feels like a nice change." She didn't know how to respond to that. No one had ever said something like that before. Then Alex said something that made her heart skip. "What's your name?" She froze. My name? Yes," he smiled. "You do have one, don't you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "It's Nira." He repeated it softly, "Nira." Just hearing her name on someone else's lips spoken kindly felt like the first drop of rain in a dry land. She stared at him for a moment, unsure if she was dreaming. "You remembered it," she whispered. "Of course," Alex replied. "Names matter. They mean someone sees you, and I see you, Nira." She turned her face away quickly, not wanting him to see the tears forming in her eyes. He stood up and opened the box he was carrying. Inside were a few tools, wires, and broken machine parts. "I'm working on something," he said, crouching. "Not for money, just for fun. Want to help?" Nira blinked. "Me?" "Yeah, you have smart eyes, I can tell." "Ever built something before?" She shook her head slowly. "No, but I watch machines sometimes." "Good enough," he said. "Let's learn together." So they sat in the dust and began connecting wires and shaping metal. Alex explained things slowly, without rushing her. Nira watched his hands move strong, but gentle. She copied what he did. For the first time, she wasn't just sitting and watching life pass her by. She was part of something. An hour passed. Like a breeze. As the sun began to set, Alex stood up and stretched. "I'll come again tomorrow." "If you want to help more," he said. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Her voice was small again. Alex looked down at her and said, "Because you deserve someone who remembers your name." Then he walked away. Nira sat still for a long time, holding the small wire coil they had built together. Her hands trembled. No one had ever remembered her name, until now. And somehow, the sky didn't feel so empty anymore. The next few days passed quietly, but something deep inside Nira had begun to shift. She didn't hide as much. She didn't cry at night, and in the morning she waited. Waited for the human. And every day he came, Alex brought small things, old batteries, broken devices, tools. He taught her how to fix simple machines. She was a quick learner. Her fingers moved fast, her eyes followed every step. For the first time, she wasn't just watching others live. She was building, touching, creating. But happiness, even the smallest kind, often wakes sleeping pain. One evening, after they finished building a small light orb together, Alex smiled and said, "You know, if we keep this up, you'll be fixing starships in no time." Nira smiled shyly. "I'd like that." But then he asked the question she had always feared. "What happened to your parents?" Her smile faded instantly. Her hands froze. The air turned cold. Alex noticed the change. "You don't have to. Tell me if they left," she said, her voice flat. "On my birthday, when I turned 6, they never came back." She placed the glowing orb on the ground and stared at it, like it held the answers she never got. Alex stayed silent. He knew that look, the look of someone carrying old wounds. "I waited for them all day," Nira continued. "I wore a clean dress. I sat outside. I kept thinking, they'll come now. They'll bring cake. Maybe a gift." But night came. Then morning, nothing. She wiped her eyes. "After that, people in the colony started treating me differently. They said my family brought shame, that they were rebels. Traitors." Alex's eyes narrowed. "Rebels?" Nira nodded slowly. "They said my parents were part of a group that tried to fight the rulers of the outer colonies. They vanished after a failed attack. No one wanted to be near me after that. They thought I carried the curse." Alex sat beside her. "Do you believe that?" She looked at him. "I didn't before. But when everyone calls you cursed, every day, you start to wonder." Alex clenched his jaw. He hated this colony sometimes. Hated how they treated the weak, the broken, the unwanted. Nira was a child when it happened. How could they blame her? He looked at her again. "You're not cursed. You're just alone. And they're scared of what they don't understand." Nira looked away. "You don't know what they've done to me." "Then tell me," he said softly. She hesitated, then whispered, "They once locked me in the waste pit for a whole night, because I tried to join the other kids playing. They said the trash was where I belonged." Alex's fists clenched. He had seen cruelty before, but this was different. This was a child left behind, forgotten, and punished for crimes she never committed. He stood up, his voice calm but firm. "That's not going to happen again." Nira blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we're going to give you what you never had. You said your birthday was the day they left. That makes it important." She shook her head quickly. "No, it's not. I hate that day. Every year it hurts. Please don't do anything." But Alex knelt in front of her, eye level. "You don't have to be afraid of that day anymore. We'll take it back. We'll make it yours again, not theirs. Not the colonies." She stared into his eyes. They were serious, but soft, steady. "Why do you care?" she asked. Alex smiled. "Because no one cared for me once. Someone changed that. Now it's my turn." For a long time, Nira said nothing. Then she whispered, "What if they hurt you, like they hurt me?" He stood up and said, "Let them try." Then he walked off toward the market. Nira sat alone again. The orb they built was still glowing beside her. But it wasn't just light anymore. It was hope. And for the first time, she thought, maybe the past didn't have to win. Maybe someone could care without fear. Maybe, just maybe, her story wasn't over yet. For the first time in years, Nira felt something like warmth inside her heart. It was not happiness. Not yet, but it was close. Each day spent with Alex gave her a reason to wake up, a reason to wait, a reason to hope. And then came the night he said the words she could not believe. "I want to give you a birthday, Nira. A real one, with a cake." She froze. They were sitting in a quiet alley near his workshop. She had just finished fixing a broken lantern. Her hands still smelled like dust and wires. But when he said cake, her fingers went cold. "No," she whispered. "No birthdays." Alex tilted his head. "Why not?" "Because bad things happen. Nira, I don't want anyone to get hurt." He gently placed his hand near hers. "What if this time something good happens?" She stared at him. Her eyes were wide, afraid. But somewhere deep inside them, a soft light flickered. He didn't wait for her permission. He just smiled and said, "I'll handle everything." The next morning, Alex went to the market district. It was dangerous. Not because of monsters or aliens with weapons, but because of whispers. The colony was a place built on survival and secrets. Rumors could break people faster than blades. And already, whispers had started. "The human is feeding the cursed girl." He touched her hand. "Does he want to die?" "He's trying to bring the curse into our homes." Alex ignored it all. He stopped by a small food stall run by a kind-eyed alien woman named Vela. "I need something special," he told her. "A birthday cake," she laughed softly. "For a child?" "For someone who never had one." Vela's smile faded. "You mean the girl from the waste zone?" Alex nodded. "Her name is Nira." The woman looked around nervously. "If others find out, let them," Alex said. "I'm not here to please them," Vela sighed. "You're brave, or foolish, or both." "Just kind," he said. She thought for a moment, then whispered, "Come back tonight. I'll have something ready." But not everyone was so kind. Later that evening, as Alex returned to his room, he found a message carved into the door. "Stop before we stop you." Below it, someone had drawn a circle with a cross through it, a sign used by those who believed in the curse of the abandoned. Alex stared at it. For a moment he did nothing. Then he picked up his tool and scraped it off. Inside, he lit a lamp and pulled out a small box. In it were wires, buttons, and glowing parts. He had been working on something for Nira, a light that could float like a star. He called it a sky candle. If they were going to have a birthday, it had to feel magical. The next day, Nira found Alex sitting in the same alley, fixing something quietly. She had been scared to come. The colony was buzzing with strange energy. Eyes followed her. Even children stepped aside like she was poisoned. But Alex smiled as if nothing was wrong. "I have a surprise," he said, handing her a box. Inside was the sky candle, small, round. But when she pressed the button, it floated upward, glowing like a golden orb. She gasped. "I made it for your birthday," he said. I don't know what to say." "Say, you'll come, just for a few minutes. Just us, you, me, and the stars." She looked down. "They threatened you, didn't they?" Alex nodded. "Yes, but I've faced worse. You're not afraid?" He leaned forward and whispered, "I'm only afraid of a world where you keep living without joy." That night, Nira didn't sleep. She held the floating light close to her chest, like a secret she never wanted to lose. That no one had ever made something just for her. That no one had ever fought for her. But now, someone was. And for the first time since her parents vanished, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she mattered. But in the shadows, others were watching. And someone was planning to make sure this birthday never happened. The night was quiet. Too quiet. In the old warehouse near the edge of the colony, Alex had prepared everything. A broken table had been cleaned and fixed. A few glowing lights, carefully powered by handmade batteries, lit the space with soft color. A thin blanket hung like a curtain, hiding the room from outside eyes. On the table sat the cake round, glowing gently with alien fruits and creamy lights, a mix of human recipe and local ingredients. A tiny candle stood in the center. The words on the cake, written in glowing syrup, simply read, "Happy birthday, Nira." She hadn't arrived yet. Alex waited, nervous. Not for himself, but for her. He didn't want anything to ruin this moment. Not again. But outside, in the deeper shadows of the colony, someone was moving. Nira stood in front of a cracked mirror inside an empty storage box she called home. Her hair was brushed. Her face was clean. She wore the same old dress she'd worn for years, but tonight it felt different, special. Her heart beat fast. She held the floating light Alex had given her, her sky candle close to her chest. It glowed gently like a little star. Tonight was her first birthday. Her first real one. She stepped outside, and that's when she smelled something burning. Alex heard it first, a loud crack followed by the sharp scent of smoke. He turned toward the curtain and rushed outside. His heart stopped. Fire. The wall next to the warehouse had been lit on purpose. Flames licked the sides. The door where Nira was supposed to enter was now blocked by smoke and growing heat. Someone had done this. He didn't have time to think. He grabbed a wet cloth and ran into the smoke, kicking open the back exit to vent the air. "Nira!" he shouted. "Don't come in!" But she was already running toward the fire, her eyes wide with fear. "No!" she cried. "Not again! I cursed you! I knew this would happen!" Alex saw her and ran forward, coughing. "It's not your fault. Go back." But she dropped to her knees outside the fire, tears falling down her cheeks. "This is why I don't get birthdays. The world won't let me have one." Alex knelt beside her. His face was covered in ash, his hands burned from grabbing hot metal, but his voice was calm. "You are not cursed. You don't know that." He grabbed her hand. "I don't need to know. I believe," Nira sobbed. "I only brought pain. Just like they said. You could have died. But I didn't," he said. "Because I wanted to give you this, even if the whole world turned against me." She looked at him, really looked. His eyes didn't lie, and slowly, her trembling stopped. Together, they stood up. The fire had died down. Others were watching from a distance, but no one came to help. No one dared. But they saw something strange that night. They saw her, the abandoned girl, walking with the human, not hiding. Smoke curled around them like a ribbon of memory. And in Nira's hands, the sky candle floated up once more higher, this time glowing brighter than before. It rose above the crowd, above the buildings, into the night sky. A silent message. She was not broken. She was rising. Later, they sat in the quiet corner of the warehouse, far from the burned area. The cake was half melted, but the candle was still intact. Alex lit it and said softly, "Make a wish." Nira looked at him. "I don't know how," he smiled. "Just close your eyes and think of something you want deep inside your heart." She closed her eyes, held her breath, and wished not for gifts, not for safety, but for one more day where someone would call her by her name. Then she opened her eyes and blew out the candle. For the first time in her life, she felt like someone, not a shadow, not a curse, just Nira. The fire was gone, but the smell of smoke still clung to Nira's dress. The warehouse was half burned, the cake ruined, the lights dark. Yet she sat there beside Alex, quiet and still, holding the half-melted candle in her hands. She had never had a birthday before. And now this one had been stolen too, but something inside her was different this time. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She just looked up at the sky and whispered, "It's still beautiful, even after the fire." Alex glanced at her, surprised by the strength in her voice. He stood up slowly and held out his hand. "Come with me," he said. Nira blinked. "Where?" "I want to show you something the fire can't reach." They walked in silence through the sleeping colony. The buildings stood like crooked bones under the night sky. Lights flickered behind closed doors, and shadows whispered behind curtains. But no one followed them now. Everyone had seen the fire. Everyone had seen the human walk into it. For her. And no one knew what to do with that. They reached a steep hill at the very edge of the colony, a place where few ever climbed. Alex helped her up the last few steps. Her feet were tired. Her arms burned, But when she reached the top, she forgot everything above them. The sky opened like a blanket of diamonds, stars scattered in every direction. 2 moons hovered like twin guards, lighting her face in silver. Nira gasped. "It's so big," she whispered. "I always watch the stars from the ground. I didn't know they look like this up here." Alex smiled and sat down on the flat stone. "I come here when I want to remember what matters," he said. "Up here, everything else feels small." She slowly sat beside him. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Nira looked at her hands and asked softly, "Why did you really care about my birthday?" Alex didn't answer right away. He picked up a small rock, turned it in his fingers, and finally said, "Because I never had one either. Not a real one." She turned to him in surprise. "When I was young," he continued, "my parents worked in space mining, always moving. No time for parties. No time for candles or songs. One year I asked for a cake, and they laughed. Said it was just another day." He placed the rock down gently. "So I promised myself, if I ever found someone who needed a birthday more than I did, I'd give them one." Nira's eyes softened. "You gave it to me," she said. Alex looked at her. "And I'd do it again. Fire or no fire." She turned away quickly. Her eyes were wet. No one had ever made her feel like she mattered. No one had ever climbed a hill just to give her the stars. She wiped her tears fast and whispered, "Do you think the stars remember people like me?" Alex looked up. "I think the stars remember everyone. But they shine brighter when someone believes in you." Nira smiled for real. The kind of smile that reaches the eyes. The kind that doesn't need words. Then Alex pulled something from his pocket. A thin, silver bracelet with a tiny charm shaped like a star. "I made this from the scrap you and I collected," he said. "It's not much, but it's yours." He placed it gently on her wrist. The metal was warm from his hand. Nira stared at it. "I don't have anything to give you," she said. "You already gave me something," Alex replied. "What?" "You. Let me believe birthdays can still mean something." That night, they sat under the stars, 2 souls forgotten by the world, but not by each other. Above them, the sky candle rose one more time, floating high into the dark. And beneath it, a girl, who once believed she was cursed, made a silent promise. If someone could care for her, maybe she could learn to care for herself too. A week had passed since the fire. The warehouse was now just a black shell. The burned walls still stood, but everything inside had been destroyed, except one small thing. The candle. Nira kept it in a small pouch tied to her side, close to her heart. It had melted, cracked, and bent, but it was hers. A proof that someone once remembered her birthday. She no longer hid behind junk walls or walked with her head low. People still stared, but she didn't flinch. Because now, someone had walked through fire for her, and that changed everything. In the market square, strange things were happening. Children who once laughed at her were now quiet. Some even looked guilty. Whispers still flowed, but they were softer now. She didn't run from the fire. He carried her out like she mattered. Maybe the curse was never real. Alex worked every day in his workshop, his fingers burned, but his mind busy. Nira helped him fix broken drones and wing fans. They didn't speak much about the fire. They didn't need to, but deep inside Alex's mind, something bothered him. She never had her birthday. He had promised her one, and promises mattered. On the 7th morning after the fire, Nira woke up to something strange. The air smelled sweet. She followed the scent through the alleys and dusty paths, until she reached the very place where the fire had happened. There, in the middle of the scorched ground, stood a table, and on it was a cake, not fancy, not perfect. It was shaped unevenly. The frosting was clumsy, but it was glowing. The top had bright colors from alien fruits, and on it, written in careful syrup letters, You still matter, Nira. She stepped closer, heart racing. Alex stood nearby, his hands behind his back. His shirt was stained with flour, his boots dusted with ash. You made another one? She whispered. I had to, he said. The first one was for your birthday. This one is for your voice. She looked up at him, confused. He smiled. You've been quiet for too long, Nira, hiding, waiting. But that night under the stars you changed. You found your voice again, and I heard it. Her lips parted. He stepped closer. You've always had a voice. But now, you're ready to use it. She stared at the cake. I don't know how to say thanks, she said. You just did. Nira turned toward the growing crowd. Yes, people had started gathering again, watching, waiting. In the past, she would have run, but not today. She turned around, faced the crowd, and picked up the small knife from the table. With shaking hands, she cut the cake. Then she looked up. Would anyone like a piece? The crowd was silent, and then one small child stepped forward. A boy. He had once thrown stones at her. He looked at the cake, then at her, and whispered, I'm sorry. Nira didn't speak. She just handed him a slice. Then others came, slowly. One by one. And the girl who had spent her life being pushed away now stood at the center sharing her cake. Later, when the crowd had faded and the sky turned orange with sunset, Nira sat beside Alex again. She licked frosting from her fingers and smiled. You were right, she said. The stars do remember. Alex chuckled. Told you. She looked down at the glowing bracelet on her wrist. It still shimmered with her name. Then she turned to him and asked, Do you think I can make cakes like this someday? For someone else? Alex nodded. You'll make better ones. And maybe I'll give it to someone who thinks they're cursed. He smiled, proud, because he knew the truth. Nira wasn't just given her voice back. She had found it. And now she would use it to light the dark for others, just like he did for her.